Good evening, everybody. Pre-fight pod, post-fight pod, God knows what it is, but we're all here anyway. Steve Wellings alongside Matty Di Gialinardo, Andy Patterson and rapping Rob Kelly. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Thousands lining up to get on the call. I'll put the StreamYard link in very shortly if you want to talk about Wilder against Fury 3, the undercard, or any of the action that's gone on tonight. Don't ask me about Foster against Cunningham. Haven't seen it, don't know. It could be going on now for all I know. One thing I will tell you, Andy, is I'm going to give Eddie a big pat on the back for this Liverpool card, especially the last two fights. Troy Williamson knocking out Ted Cheeseman and Anthony Fowler getting knocked out by Liam Smith. I tell you what, they were two good scraps, man. Evening, Eddie.
Evening, Eddie. Well done, mate. I will be honest, I actually was flicking between the German card and the Cheeseman card at the same time. I tuned in specifically around about round 6. Pretty heavy. It was one of the fights, mate. I will go back and watch it before tomorrow's podcast and that, but for what I seen, that was heavy weather for both guys. Williamson looked like there was moments he might have wilted, and Cheeseman, we know, has went to the well too long. I'm really worried about him, actually, to be honest, especially after that knockout. The right uppercut, left hook was savage. Hopefully better judgment prevails and someone steps in and says, listen, that is enough. At this point in his career, mate, he has given a lot to the domestic scene. I like to see Eddie maybe step up, maybe give him a role of some sort, possibly maybe re-educate him, maybe get him another trade or something like that. But that was a bad ending for me, at least. And Fowler did pretty well early doors, good job, seemed to be disciplined anyway, put it that way, but got caught. And as I says to me about Smith in that fight against Kurbanov, the left hook was pretty much missing tonight, wasn't he? And he dropped two left hooks, body and head, dropped Fowler in the 8th, I think it was. Sorry, I forget what round it was, but pretty emphatic ending actually. And Big Smigger, he was enjoying it at the, what was it, that first knockdown? I forget what round it was actually, but he was enjoying it as well.
Was it third or
the
fourth? Something like
third
that.
round, aye.
No, it was a bit later than that. It might have been the 5th actually. I can't remember.
He's like, get in there, get in there, get in there. So he was loving it. And I dare say, look, listen, I think we'd all enjoy a fella getting knocked out, but at the same time, he'd give a good go, man. He had fucking Smith staggering at one point.
Andy, a confession for me and you. I must admit, I admitted it in the WhatsApp chat. Whenever Fowler seemed to have Smith going, man, I was buzzing for some reason. I suddenly wanted him to stop him, and I don't know why.
You told me, mate. I'm sorry about actually, providing sensitive information, but you said to me you want to see Paul Smith come in the ring and scrape him off the canvas. That's what you told me. So. But no, it was good stuff. Fair play to both guys. That listen, both had their moments, and both had their adversities in that as well. But they came through it. And fair play to Liam Smith. I did expect them to win by knockout. I did say that, but I'm happy with that. And I say the left hook came into play fantastically. So did the old Tesco Joe left hook. All the years came into progress. So fantastic.
Well said, Andy. Yes, we'll move on very shortly. Well, we'll move on now, in fact, to the next person, which is Matty. Just before we do so, I'll say I've put the StreamYard link in the chat. If you want to come on and have your say, do so. Have something to say. Make sure you can string a sentence together and piss off as quickly as you can. No offence. Not talking about you, Matty. Glad to have you on here. What about the stoppage? He was busted up. He'd been dropped for the second time very heavily. Got caught square on a couple of times. The eye was cut. He was having moderate moments of success, but no great success really since the beginning part of the fight. It was the right call for me for Fowler to, say, look, you've had enough, son. You've had a go. It's time to finish off.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, I thought that probably, the first 3 rounds of the fight, maybe 2.5 rounds, because I think that Smith kind of woke up around the end of the third. But I'll tell you what, Steve, what I thought, I just thought that the beginning of the fight, I thought that Smith in every way possible looked old, from the hair to the output to the speed to the fluidity of his shots. He just didn't have it. And then all of a sudden, it came together and he started looking like himself again. It was and he, from that point on, I mean, there were some competitive moments, but he really just started pouring it on. I think the first knockdown came in the 5th round. They were both bleeding. It was a really good and competitive fight through about 4 or 5 rounds. You didn't know which way it was going to go. And then after that, it kind of seemed clear that Smith was going to come home from the victory. But I'll tell you what, first couple rounds, I thought the guy was washed up. I don't know if any of you guys agree with me, but I just, for everything that from the optics on it, it just wasn't there. And then the lights came on.
Well said. The lights have come on in the chat anyway. Dan Potter's dropped in 14 Canadian dollars there for us. Which of the panel are waking up for the fight, and who gets the plum job of calling Andy and Rob? Andy will be staying up indeed. Rob, who's going to be giving you a ring? It certainly won't be me.
Well, I tell you, I've actually got me.
Staying up, Rob.
Well, the plan is definitely in place, because I got my old man staying up with me. He hasn't been well. He's just out of hospital, so he's staying with me for a little while. Doesn't look as good in his pajamas as my pajama, by the way. In his own card. Planning on giving him a shout there to see. He's an early riser anyway, so I'm planning on giving him a shout to see if you want to get up and watch it. But I'll be up and watching it tonight. Tonight is I missed the first two, so it's third time lucky. Let's see what happens.
Ozzy jumped on as well with us. John O'Donovan's dropped in €4.99. Much appreciated to you, John. Thank you very much. Good to see you with us, Ozzy. Fowler doing well with the jab early. Mikkel Kessler-esque jab. Smith soaking it up as best as he can. He was rocked a bit. Both men were cut. We've given Eddie a pat on the back. I'm sure you would echo that sentiment. He's put on 2 cracking fights and a decent card overall, Eddie.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it. I mean, I said last week that I felt Smith had put in like an Eggington-like performance and showed the levels, and that's exactly what he did. I thought I'd be eating my words after the first round. I thought Fowler started brilliantly. Almost punch perfect in that first round. He was excellent. He cut Smith. And Smith, I just thought, as father time caught up on him, he looks a bit, I say rusty, but he had that fight earlier in the year. I just thought, right, he's going to have to get going and fast here. Anyway, he did exactly that. He rebounded really well in the second. That distance that Fowler had in the second had almost gone. Had gone in the second. And then Smith just, he knew when to up the ante. I thought he cut the ring off really well. And just the constant pressure he put on Fowler showed that I just thought Fowler really struggled at times. I was impressed. A really, really good performance by Liam Smith. But it's exactly what he should be doing. And Smith's no business at domestic level now. And that's not a criticism of him. Just he's far superior than that level at what it is. I mean, I said to somebody before that I don't want to hear the fight against Jesse Vargas mentioned next. And what was mentioned? The fight against Jesse Vargas. And I have no interest in it. And I don't know anybody who is calling for this fight. I don't know anyone who is calling for the fight between Smith and Vargas.
I hear you. I keep hearing
what
Eddie
a
say
fucking loser.
Eddie keeps saying, like, the winner of this fight gets Jesse Vargas. What the fuck does that mean? Like, who's this shit? Jesse Vargas been hanging out for a fight for 5 years, for fuck's sake.
Celebrating trying to look at Tim Bradley because he hit the ropes.
Yeah, who is calling for this fight against Jesse Vargas? And that is nobody. The fight I'd like to see is Liam Smith against Sergio Garcia, actually, because I think Garcia is ready for that step up. And I think Smith has shown, he's a solid European level. I know he's won world titles, but at the moment you'd say he's like a very solid European level fighter. I think that's a fight I'd like to see, not against Jesse Vargas. I mean, where does that get you? I mean, Hearn was mentioning, like wage demands are making it difficult. Yeah, but right, don't make it then, because no one gives a toss about it. As for Andy Fowler, I'd like to see Fowler go up to 160. To be honest, I think he's really tight at the weight. He's massive, particularly upper body as well, and he's not as if he's got small legs. Where he can look to trim down. He's just a naturally big, big stocky fighter, and he lives the life. He trains hard, and I just think that final few pounds, I think he'd be ideal at like 157. The final 3 pounds just might take that bit too much out of him. So I don't think his career's over because he's stepped up, and lost to a European level fighter just because it's domestic in terms of, someone from his own city. That doesn't mean, he's not at that level. I thought he showed improvements under Shane McGuigan without a doubt. And maybe it's just one step too far at the moment. I mean, if he stays at 154, I don't think he deserves the Troy Williamson fight after Williamson's brilliant performance tonight. But there's other fights available. But I would like to see him go up to 160, that's for sure. Just to test the waters, box with that extra, you're not cutting that 6 pounds. See how you feel. Will he carry his power a bit more? will he not gas? Because he looked fatigued. Was he a bit too tense? Was he nervous? I'm not sure. But, in his two major fights, he has seemed to tire down the straight. And that was against Scott Fitzgerald and now Liam Smith. So is it the weight that's just taken its toll on him? But overall, like I said, we're easy to criticise promoters when they do things wrong. The fights fights aren't up to spec, that sort of stuff. But I will praise Hearn for tonight's card. Without a doubt, I would say it's one of his better cards that he's put on. Seeing some people saying that it's crazy. People saying this is unbelievable. I don't know why they're saying that. It's one of these brilliant cards. But you've got to appreciate what boxing is now, and it's different from what it was, 6 or 7, 8 years ago, when it was on Sky and you'd have world titles on Friday fight night or Saturday fight night. And that's because the purses have changed. I enjoyed tonight's show. I thought it was really good. And what do I always say? It doesn't matter what title is on the line if the fights are matched correctly and the 50-50s or, they're quite even. Because 9 times out of 10, they'll produce the goods. And that's what we saw tonight.
Well said. No beef for Eddie, but beef for beef. He got the win in the end. Magoo, rather, 83 says Fowler looks like he's always going to struggle later in fights. Quick word, Andy, on Shannon Courtney's loss to Jamie Mitchell. Rumour has it Courtney's shorts were white whenever she left the dressing room.
Yeah. Well, you dirty bastard. It was. I was kind of flipping back and forward between certain fights and stuff, but it was good to see her take a L. For what I've seen in Mitchell in that, she was pretty on the front foot pretty early.
You were flicking it back and forward when you were watching that, Andy, were you?
I didn't get fully. I was fully soft at the time, though. To be honest with you, mate. But if the result came in, I was fully hard though. It was tremendous, actually. Good to see the Mitchell get the decision. I think one of the scorecards was pretty much well off the 95-95 card. I thought Mitchell was more than a worthy winner, and Shannon Courtney gets to go back to her PMT, and it's a hard living for a woman, actually, to be honest with you. It's a sad times, actually. These are the things to expect. And as Nicola Sturgeon would say, actually, the First Minister of Scotland, it's these things happen.
In your own time, Andy, please. In your own time.
Hey, Nicola Sturgeon, Andy, or Shannon Courtney?
Neither. Mate, I'd rather fuck the Pope.
I tell you what,
Christ.
Nicola Sturgeon would probably get a shot at WBA title, man. The way they're giving them out.
Rangers fan and fuck the Pope, shocker.
Go on, Matty. Go on, Matt.
I just have to say that the fact that she's Courtney has uttered some racist stuff on the past. The idea of her losing to a black gal, that's some wonderful poetry. That's just fantastic.
Right, okay. So, Ozzy, you're giving us Foster Cunningham updates here. What round are we into and what's going on? Cue your observations.
We're in round 10 now. I didn't watch the first half of the fight because I was watching Smith against Fowler. But as I switched on, Carl Frampton had Brad Foster winning the first, I think, 6 rounds. But then Cunningham has bounced back. His experience is showing. There's 30 seconds left of the 10th now on my on-stick TV, which is a tremendous stream, by the way. Big up JL. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting final 2 rounds, actually. Frampton scored, like I said, the last 4 to Cunningham. Foster's had a point off as well for constantly hitting low. So going to be interesting. Good fight. And what did I just say before? It doesn't matter what level they're at. If they're evenly matched, the 9 times out of 10, they'll produce the goods. And this is another one. British, Commonwealth and European titles on the line. 2 fighters, giving it their all. And what they're doing, evenly matched and produced.
Is that still going on the
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Still live. There's two rounds left.
End of the 10th, I've got it on mine here.
If you have a stick, Andy, you can just switch over now, man.
I've got the German card on me. I've got the Krasniqi fight on against Bozel rematch. It's the most touty fight in Germany right
Krasniqi updates here.
Yep.
This is the fucking hardest shit out, man. This
This
part,
is the hard.
this is
This
why
is
we
the
never go
hardcore,
mainstream.
hardcore.
This is it.
This is like Viagra for boxing fans. This is coming at you. Yes, so the undercard of the BT, very quickly before we move on to Wilder Fury. I saw Liam Davis, looked a little bit stiff, a little bit upright, could have problems going forward. And I watched as much as Callum Johnson as I could before friend of the pod, Des, informed me that Cheeseman Williamson was an ongoing war, so I switched over to that. Anything else, Andy, you want to add from tonight's action before we go into Wilder Fury? Go ahead now. I know you've been watching a bit of German action there.
Well, Kadyrov was pretty poor, mate. He's fighting Boris Estenfelder, who has been at the ring for 2 years. Shit performance. Roman Frez got dropped. Cruiserweight shite title for WBO against an Italian guy. Got dropped in the 4 rounds, I say. Should have lost the decision and got handed at like 97, 93 across 2 cards. That disgraceful, So German decisions are pretty much up there like the British ones and the Americans. So I pretty poor all room with the Germans. And that this main event's still going ahead just now, and that, so I'll pass it over.
Right, let's get on to the good stuff, shall we? The big stuff indeed, Matty, starting with you. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3. It's going down in a few hours. There's some pressure on Wilder for me, Matty, to do something different. To make Wilder's going to have to come up with something possibly that we've never seen before. What in your opinion, can Wilder do differently that he hasn't already shown in these first 2 fights? Because for me, Fury is the man in the ascendancy, and there's an argument that he's figured Deontay Wilder out. What can Wilder do differently?
I think that he has to learn the same lesson that Anthony Joshua needs to learn after losing to Usyk. And he needs to try to learn how to fight like he's a big man, and that he's got a punch. Him particularly, I mean, he's got that hammer, and we've seen, that right hand is murderous, but we've seen him drop people, stop people with the left before. That right hand can be thrown short. He cracked Ortiz with it with an uppercut. He can hit it long. There's a lot of ways that he can do that. And I think the big thing for him is he's got to be there to return fire on the inside, and he's got to find a way to make it so that Tyson Fury is more cautious about walking in. When Tyson Fury decided he was just going to walk him down, that was the game changer. And I mean, that shot that Wilder went down from was definitely a shot, that was behind the ear. I'm not going to say behind the head. I think that's wrong. So his equilibrium was off. So, I mean, that's leaves a little bit of question in the mind. So it's, if Wilder changes a few things, it can be a completely different fight. If he's the same person that fought Tyson Fury the last time around, he's definitely going to lose. There's no doubt about it. But he has added weight, and he thinks he's on roids.
Yes.
I'm not even going to go into that. But
oh my god!
So the way this is the way that I played it, because the odds are correct. Tyson Fury should win. Okay, Tyson Fury should win. In fact, in the States, most odd makers have Tyson Fury by knockout right at about even money, if not just a smidge less. But one of the books that I use had an odds boost for Tyson Fury plus 160 by KO. Another one I used had a 25% boost that you could use on any outcome. I used that Wilder by KO that got to about plus 350.
He's doing these odds again. Come on, Matty. What is this?
So I put equal money on those bets, and if either Fury or Wilder wins by knockout, I will be able to come out ahead. Wilder by KO much bigger than Fury by KO. So that's, if you guys have either FD, because I don't want to pimp them out, or DK as your options for sportsbook, go look at those because they're still available in the boost. I think that's the way that you have to play it. Watch us all be shocked and it end up being a distance fight. Watch that fucking happen, and everybody's got fucking egg on their face. That's my hunch. Is you got to play the KO, and that's the right way to gamble it, in my opinion.
Right. Well, the book of Matthew, in the terms of the Lord, the gift of the Lord, basically the gospel of Matthew.
Al
The sports book
Al
of Matthew.
The gospel of Matthew is spoken here by. What I'm going to say is this: 100% in my opinion, he has spent 20 months. I'm talking about Wilder here. Spent 20 months in Alabama. He's mentioning about benching 350 pounds. Look at his gut. Look at his stomach, right? And there's a saying for that. Just how can I put it? That is Roy gut. He's got the distended bubble gut, is what they call it, really. He's got the HGH all about it.
That's
Who knew
Rick
I was-
James
who
and
knew I was
Roy's gut,
riding all these years?
motherfucker. You don't know nothing about this.
He's expecting Fury to walk him down, right? And then he's expecting to try and rough him up on the inside. Wilder isn't an inside fighter. He is purely mid-distance, right? He's got to get his distance through the right hand. That is all he does. There's no special effects. His footwork is average, right? I don't see anything whatsoever that he's going to improve on, right? Maybe Fury gets overconfident and he gets caught with a shot. It's going to happen, possibly. Aye, it's heavyweight fighting at the end of the day, but people are honestly way overlooking this and they talk about the gloves and just looking at him on the scales at 238. He's put on an additional 8 pounds. He's looking fucking massive.
Is he
There
too
isn't
heavy?
an
Do you
ounce
think?
of fat. I think he's too. I think he's too fucking heavy, mate.
Mm.
He's no. He is the.
For
To
years,
me,
all you motherfuckers been
he's
saying he
stepping-
needs to put on some
Mate,
weight. He just doesn't have enough
never said
weight. He's
that.
like
And
215
I have
pounds.
never said he needs to put weight on. Ever. Have I said he needs to put weight on? But I think he, at this point in his career, has went all in. Mentally, biologically, he is put on the. He is definitely on the gear, Matty. I don't care what anybody says. He is. And Fury's maybe still under investigation.
Andy, let's see what the fans think. This is what I'm curious. All right, for everybody who thinks that that Wilder is on steroids, I want you to in the chat to give
Colin?
us a
Throw in a
$1,
$20
1
super chat.
pound, 1 kroner, 1 yen, even though that's
This is
nothing.
No.
Give us that chat. And if you
Colin.
think that Deontay Wilder is not on roids, I want you to give us a 101, as in 1.01 donation in whatever currency that it is that you
And
use.
if you
And
agree
we'll
with
see.
Andy,
It's
if
just
you-
like, put $1 in who you think should win the presidential nomination thing. Yeah.
Fuck
all
you.
right.
Listen,
No.
just
We
check
love
out
the super
Dave
chats.
Palumbo, right? Dave Palumbo, check out his gut, right? It's called Palumboism for a reason. Deontay Wilder has got it. He's standing on the scales. He's got his shoulders jacked to the gallows, by the way. He's got legs like Bambi, and he's got the Roy gut. It's what they call distended bubble gut. That's what it is, mate. He is 1,000% on the HG. He's on the growth, baby. He's 100% on the fucking growth. I don't care what anybody's saying. He's 100% all in for his fight, mentally, physically, and now biologically, by the way, because he knows he's using excuses about gloves, fucking people spiking his drinks, snakes in the camp, fucking loaded gloves, every fucking excuse in the world. Now he's got to say something else. He's got Mr. fucking, what's his name? Malik Scott in the fucking camp.
Yeah.
And now he's like fucking, so he's going about
They're saying there's some
it's
breaking news about the fight might not be going ahead, that there's some tragedy outside the stadium. I don't know how true that is, but
Nah,
the listeners are saying it.
That's,
Oh,
obviously that's
fucking
true.
great. God damn it. We got Tupac
ISIS.
2021. Except it's before the fight. Hey, Steve, give a shout out to all those people that have tossed into the super chat there, including this great 7-9 from
yes,
the Dr.
I'm
FM.
trying.
Can't keep up with all the money.
I know. I'm trying to write him down as quick as I can. Francis King was the first one. He got the ball rolling after Dan Potter, of course. Dan Potter wasn't enough for him. He's thrown in another one for us as well. Dan Desmond, not the Dan Desmond, the other one has thrown in £1, and the Dr. FMG has thrown in $7.99 as well. Sorry, Andy, carry on.
No, mate, listen, I'll hand over to like Ozzy and that, mate. But as I says, Wilder for me is 100% all in. Do not expect any towels coming in for the corner this week.
No.
For Malik Scott. Malik Scott has been conditioned not to throw it in. They are best mates, apparently, family friends. He has been warned. He's been trained not to throw in a towel. It's do or die for Wilder tonight, by the way. Do or die for him. Kid you not, man. He is all in. And as I says, drug test, is it VADA, is it USADA, or is it NADA testing? NADA meaning
Why are you so mad?
Well, I'm not so mad at mate. Listen, do you want a body? Do you really want a body in the record tonight? Because I'll tell you one thing, by the way, because consider how fucking Wilder was carrying on there, by the way. The only person who's got a fucking body in the record is going to be fucking him.
Johnny. Sorry, Rob, I was just going to say Johnny Horsecock Nelson's throwing in £1.79. He's preempted me. I was going to say the RIP Dan Raphael. I was wondering when the RIP Joe Rogan was going to come there. Go ahead, Rob.
You can't
Deontay
eat two
Wilder.
hot dogs at once.
Joe Rogan, I always think of Wilder when he starts. Joe Rogan starts. Rogan's gonna be stoned on his fucking podcast talking about Deontay Wilder is a freak of nature, man. He's like Tommy Hearns, but he's like 212. He whips that way, man. The way he whips that shut, man. Shut the fuck. Someone's top Joe Rogan talking about boxing. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I don't know on this fight, man. I really don't know. Like, you get caught up when the fight is so close and you start analyzing things in the fucking weigh-in in the press conference and all. You know, you go for those old ones, like you start going, oh, maybe Fury doesn't look himself. He looks a bit hyped up, and Wilder's calm, and collected. Well, Wilder kind of has to be, like, don't he? Like, he can't be shouting up and barking and all after his last performance. So he's sticking to his guns. He's doubling down on the cheat allegations. Tough Fury played it pretty well when he was saying, Diaz must be in it as well. Like, he went on it as well as the that. And then I saw LBDC Twitter go into a fucking meltdown when Wilder said, you're not denying any of it. And he goes, no, because it's true. I had knuckle dusters and rockets on me boots. And everyone was like, see, he admitted he cheated and nobody's saying anything. So,
they're weird. They're a weird species, by the way. Seriously, need to be dissected and sent for medical research.
But I don't know. I think something funky is going to happen in the fight. I don't know why. I think it could end in controversy.
There's a roof. There's a roof, Rob. There can be no fan man.
Insulate Britain are going to come in on a fan, Rob.
Something funky is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't. Like, everything is telling me Fury should win the fight.
Fourth fight, mate. Do you think?
Just this fucking thing about Wilder. Like, and if he is riding, what's he going to be punching like a fucking 237? You know what I mean? He's not going to be punching.
350, man.
He's not going to be punching lighter, is he? Like, he's going to be punching a lot heavier. So I think I said before, the key to victory for Wilder: stay in the fight for 6 rounds. We'll try and stay in it for 6 rounds and then start punching with Fury. Like, and he has to try and punch with Fury. You can't let Fury dictate it on the outside, or he's just going to get smashed up again. And he's not great at countering. Like, some of his efforts at countering in the first fight, fucking, Dave Allen had seen him coming. Like, you know, he was all over the gaff. Like, he was just fucking winging shots and Fury was picking him off. So if he changes that, he makes that adjustment, and he can punch with Fury, could be a fucking different story, man. I don't give a fuck, Tyson Fury, who the fuck it is. If Wilder connects that one time properly, like bang on the chin, as Jim Watt says, it's fucking lights out for anybody. So he has that, and for that reason, I still don't know. Like, I'm edging towards Fury, but honest to God, I don't know.
The jab, Rob, I think, is the key to closing the gap, because he used that jab a lot more than he gave him credit for in the first fight.
Yeah, and like, his jab is not great, but sometimes he throws it as a blinder. Now, I don't know if he can do that with Fury, but if he starts to kind of maybe, like, if him and Scott have obviously been working on stuff, I don't think it's like Wilder's just been kicked off in his red tracksuit when fucking Malik Scott's been filming his OnlyFans with his wife. Like, they have been doing some work together, and they've been away there for a long time together. So I think Wilder probably needs that, like, psychologically, to think that Mark Breland betrayed him and poisoned his water, and Malik Scott's his best friend, and they're going to come out like fucking Creed or some shit and pull it off. He needs that for his preparation. But having said all that, like, a different Deontay Wilder presents a different set of problems, because whether it was Fury's performance or the fucking suit was too heavy, Wilder did look off from the first round after he got first touched. After he first got touched, he got looked off. So you can read into that and say he was mentally broken, or you can say there's something, he just fucking, you know, everything drained out of him and he lost everything that night in the fight, and it was a one-off. Like, so if he's prepared, and if he looks like he's prepared, he's going to come out different. I think it's going to be a different fight. Not sure it's going to be a different winner, but I just don't know.
There you go. Rob doesn't know. Nobody quite knows. Ozzy, I'm not sure what you're thinking. Just think, well, I'm actually thinking here about Malik Scott. Whatever Scott has supposedly added, I mean, will Wilder be able to implement it against the best man in the heavyweight division? This ain't no Stiverne or Brazil. You know, he's pitching against the division's #1 fighter. I mean, how long before he reverts to those old habits, throws out the Scott game plan, goes balls to the wall like he did in the second fight, and just goes in all guns blazing? Maybe he could have done with another fight before this one, which he was never going to take, to get used to this supposed Scott game plan and get used to the new man in his corner.
I think Scott's been brought in because ultimately Wilder was unhappy with what Mark Breland did, so they needed somebody else to come in. He's gone with Malik Scott. He's happy. He's confident. And maybe that's something, that all he needs. He needs, like his ego buttering again, like just massaging his ego, getting him confident again. Because in reality, I mean, yeah, they have had quite a bit of time out the ring, but what could he, what can he realistically implement? I'm a big believer if you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And Deontay Wilder is what he is. He's a huge, huge power puncher. He's not a boxer. I think he is underrated because I think a lot of people criticise him for what he is because he is talented. And I mean, look, what he's done is ferocious. That saying, I think, like I said, he will easily get drawn into what he wants to do. There's no way he'll be looking to, back off. I don't think he'll be able to stick to that game plan. But more importantly as well, Tyson Fury in the first fight, what did he blow up to? 30 stone, 32 stone. He was boozing, he was eating, he was on the drugs. He came back, he had 2 gimme fights, and then realistically, he beat Deontay Wilder. If it wasn't, from poor scoring, he won the first fight. The second fight, Tyson Fury had better prep. He had gone with the new trainer only for what was it, 8 weeks tops, and absolutely destroyed Deontay Wilder. We're now asking Deontay Wilder to do something that he's not been able to do in the first fight or the second fight, and that is A, knock Tyson Fury out, or B, completely outbox him. Now, I can't see him outboxing him whatsoever. Of course he can knock him out. That's what Wilder's career is based on, and he has got a right hand that can knock anybody out. But I think Fury's too clever for it. Regardless of what Tyson Fury says on camera, he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He knows that when he looked to land the big shots on Wilder, he did it at the right time. He just didn't go in, with arms dropped, he picked the times to, land the big right hands on him. And I just can't see what Wilder can do differently. I think he's too big. He looks absolutely massive. And it reminds me of when Joshua piled on all that weight. And, if the going gets tough, more for the fact, I think he'll just gas because those muscles after, like 3 or 4 rounds are going to be crying for oxygen. We have never seen Wilder this heavy whatsoever. He was at wasn't far off a career high heavy against Fury in the second fight and struggled. And now he's coming in even heavier. The best we've seen Deontay
his legs
Wilder
as well, isn't it? Like he's got those narrow legs, like he's hard to carry.
Exactly, yeah. They're like twigs. There's nothing to them. It's not as if he's got something in his legs and things like that can carry him around. There's nothing in his legs, and now he's coming even heavier. The best we see Deontay Wilder at is when he's flattening Luis Ortiz, Dominic Breazeale, Fury in the first fight, which was, a better performance. I mean, he came in at 212 in the first fight for the Fury fight, but then I think his optimum weight is around 225. That's when he's explosive, he's quite quick. And as Andy said, he's in that mid-range and he can get off that right hand. Up close, I don't think he stands a chance against Fury. Fury will maul him. He'll utilise that extra weight. I mean, that's what Anthony Joshua couldn't do against Alexander Usyk. He couldn't utilise that extra weight. Doesn't matter how big you are if you don't know how to use it. Fury knows how to use that. And imagine now, 3 or 4 rounds in, Fury, what is he at? 278? Leaning, mauling over Wilder. Every time he tries to push him off him, he's got to exert energy. And one thing Fury will do as well, he feints. Wilder will be using energy without having to throw a shot, because he knows he can be hurt by Fury. He knows he can be tagged. And similar to what Usyk did against Joshua and Bellew, he made the fighter work without having to do anything. And I don't see any other different result from the second fight. And I think Fury stops him. Not necessarily saying in more emphatic fashion, but I still think he gets him out of there. And I think Wilder will regret putting on that extra weight, because I just don't think it'll benefit him. And I can't wait to hear the excuses next. And I agree with Andy as well. Look at that belly of his. It's bloated. It's huge. We've never seen Wilder like that before. He comes in, he's quite lean. It's like someone's had a football pump, put loads of air in his stomach, and he's walked out. A bit like Oval McKenzie used to have. It's really bloated. He's never done that before, so I'd like to know what's changed in that for him to come out with that big bloated gut.
Someone has never watched commercials of impoverished children in Africa.
He's not
exactly.
He's not identifying as
Wilder's
a woman or anything at the moment, is he? And just coming in at the wrong time with him.
Matty, Deontay Wilder's a multi-millionaire. He should not be suffering from malnutrition and drinking dodgy water.
Dude, I don't know shit about physical fitness kind of thing, so I'll just have to take you guys' words for it. But I guess it goes to show how shitty the testing is. If he got through all of this, that shitty testing.
As I said, mate, is it fada, USADA, or nada?
I'm not sure.
Fury's still under investigation under UCAD as well, I believe. I think there's something still undergoing with that situation, I think.
No way. No.
Yeah, I believe there is, mate. I believe there is.
What?
There's something tweeted out earlier on there, actually. Let me find it. Give me a second.
Be surprised.
Just while you're trying to, sorry boys, just while you're trying to find that, let me give a shout out to Oliver Isaacs, who's dropped in $5. He says great pod lads, and a shout out to Chilo35. I think that's Jason Cheel. He says Fury and 9 Aussie, great pod boys. Wilder will be gasping with his little belly. I added that in after 6.
Sorry, Steve. What did you say? I was just reading something.
No, just Chilo was just saying a bit Wilder gasping after 6 rounds. I think it might be down to his little belly that he might be gasping there.
Well, yeah, and it's certainly not down to. Well, it could be down to that malnutrition, as Matty said. As we've seen these people on TV. But,
for only the price of a cup of coffee a day, Oz. You can help Deontay Wilder.
I know he's from the south of like America, whereas like with the black man is like basically discarding Matty. But has he really been like malnutritioned at this day and age?
Nah, he'd have enough to send us a super chat. I'd say.
Exactly, I think so as well. He can afford the bottle of kind of shit on the pop. He's got a handgun sitting next to him as that as well.
Like ordering out with fucking Del Boy Trotter. That's what the fuck.
Chateau de Clenbuterol, I think more like.
What? But as we've all said though, we're all thinking of things. What have we all said that we've got in common? Deontay Wilder has got to do something different. And that is something that he has not done in any of his fights previously, ever. Not even against that Ortiz. We didn't do anything different then in either fight. He still lost the rounds, and he still stuck to what he knew. And we're all assuming that he has got to change something different. And if that's the case, I just don't think he has got the ability to do that. Frank Warren made a good point. Like people were talking about, he looked great on the pads, in the stuff he revealed. Well, Deontay Wilder's not going to put out bad footage of him, is he? Like not being able to put a combination together or looking dodgy on the pads, is he? Of course he's going to put out positive stuff. And, and it makes sense. What fighter's going to put out stuff that makes them look bad? I mean, it's still intriguing.
I don't know, some of that bodywork stuff looks fucking dodgy enough.
The truth is in the ring, Ozzy, at the end of the day, under the lights.
Of course it is, yeah. Look, and it's still intriguing, and that's ultimately why we're doing this show now, because some people can't make a decision on it. And, David Hay, Hay is just picking Wilder because he wants to call he wants that Fury fight, doesn't he? He wants that Fury fight. He's an idiot. But then other people like George Groves was on TalkSport today and feels Wilder will get the win and will knock him out. And it's still, and ultimately, like I said, it's bizarre that we, a lot of people, regardless of, who come out and criticize Wilder for his boxing ability, his skills, but they're still picking still picking Deontay Wilder because of that right hand. And that is what makes it such an intriguing fight, because of Wilder's one-punch KO power.
It's the Scott X factor, isn't it? Like, that's what it is. Like.
He's actually an okay boxer. I think with Wilder he's fell in love with that absolute eraser type power that he knows when if he can land it, you're out of the game whatsoever. Look at the Ortiz fight. He was ready to go.
Yeah.
He was ready to go. And he turned it around about in his head, so he's got the balls. He has got that. But at the same time, you've got a near 200, well, I suppose on the night of the fight, possibly near 290-pound man walking towards you. It's a different game, So, but he's got balls, mate. I think he's coming to win, and he will lay it. I think he's going to lay it on the line. He'll lay everything out.
He has to. He has to. But He has to come and he has to come like what he's done, the way he's looking. He's not coming to box 12 rounds, is he? He's stacked that weight on, and I think he's expecting a shootout. Now, what's he going to do if Fury just mixes it up, and decides to box and move early on?
Yeah, feint and move.
While there's going to be that's what I mean. Fury has got the ability to do that, and we say he could be 290 pounds, but then it doesn't affect Fury. Fury can carry that additional weight. Even when he was against a lesser opponent, do you remember when he came up against that Joey Abel when he bloomed up and he came back and he looked huge, but he can still box and move. Sam Jones,
12 rounds
Joyce's manager, pissed it. Yeah, Sam Jones came out and said,
fuels him.
Sam Jones said that Fury boxed Joe Joyce when he was on the, he was at 30 stone, 29 stone, and he still moved comfortably. So that additional weight to Fury is absolutely nothing. And bear in mind, Fury weighed in with that cowboy hat on, a vest, pants, God knows what's in his pockets. He's probably coming in at a similar weight, but I don't care about the additional weight for Fury. I actually think he looks better. He looks more solid. And for those that saying he's not been training properly, well, whatever he's been doing, he looks a lot better. He looks thicker. He looks more built, probably working on that power as well, and he's had more time with that. I just wonder, the one query I've got more than anything is who's been leading this camp, because Fury spent quite a bit of it in the UK, I think, obviously because he's had a lot of issues with his newborn baby daughter
in America as well, mate, before his daughter ended up in the hospital,
Yeah,
and he didn't even see his dad, so that hasn't been mentioned. He didn't see his dad at all.
I don't know. Has Andy Lee played a big part in this camp? Because I know he's not out there because he had visa issues.
I don't think
he's played nothing to do with it as far as I know.
Yeah. So he's had nothing. So who has been leading the camp over here? He's not been over here though. I thought he was in America. Unless I'm completely wrong on that.
No, but the thing is,
Sugar Hill was in the UK.
So what happened is,
okay.
So the fight was originally arranged. They had Josh Taylor fighting Ramirez in America at the time. Fury was over there for the best part of what I want to say, about 8-10 weeks possibly, training about. Josh Taylor's banging his gut, for example. And then obviously the birth happened. The daughter ended up in the hospital unwell. I think that was the main reason why he came back to camp. After that, I don't know what Fury's been doing, to be honest with you, but I was surprised at how heavy he came in, actually, 277, but he was fully clothed, so he's got his phone, he's got some change in his pockets and that. Who knows, man, but there's always something with Fury, there's always something.
There was a certain confidence about him that seemed manufactured. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't necessarily just the naturally cocky Tyson Fury at the weigh-in.
Yeah, I got that feeling too, but then as I said earlier, you start second guessing.
I don't know.
Yeah, but is he doing that? Like, do you know that way? Is he doing that? Fury's the master of mind games. Like, is he doing that like elevated fucking thing? Like, he's a big student of Ali, isn't he? Like, so is he doing that like hyper excited thing to try and offset Wilder? I don't know. It looked a bit forced. Yeah, I thought it sounded a bit forced.
What made you feel that?
Yeah, it's difficult to know. One thing we can all agree on. Oh, sorry,
was the Ames?
What Tony London's saying here, so the tail's never getting thrown in.
Go on, Steve.
Go on, Ames. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to question Matty and Rob as to what made him feel that, because I didn't get that at all. I got that more from Wilder, and Wilder wanting to kind of get out of there that Fury was putting out nervous energy and call that out as that. But I never felt it was that way. I thought Tyson was very much just being Tyson as he was naturally and not kind of forcing anything. I just wondered what it was.
He was searching for the reaction a little bit more than usual, and he didn't get it, so he pushed harder.
Exactly that. I think, yeah, exactly that. And then by the time, I don't know, like I felt like it, I don't know, felt a little bit more manufactured than normal. Like, it didn't feel like, to me, it just, looking at it live, like it didn't feel, it was all a bit weird that like Kate Abdo's been in America for 5 minutes and now she's like, and some great questions, you guys, right? Like, she was like fucking Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins about 6 weeks ago, and now she's like fucking, she's like one of the mean girls or something asking the questions. She's a great. Look at, she's in the elite lineup of female boxer presenters. That's for sure.
I like her. She doesn't fuck about, does she?
Well, apart from her fucking accent, right? Well, fuck her. as Bob Hartman say. But no, like
Fuck her, fuck them.
fuck them. Yeah, like a prick.
Where's my fucking joint?
Yeah, something was wrong with Bob. He was fucking looking for one. I don't know. I felt like Fury. I don't know. It didn't feel the normal Gypsy King pattern. Like it felt a bit forced or something. Like maybe because it's the fight's not selling either. He's trying to hype it up at the last minute. I don't know, man.
Okay, Ames is on the call with us. Ames, I have a question for you. I was going to say, does a win for Wilder, right? Does it reignite the heavyweight division a little bit? I mean, all the big boys then, aside from Usyk, will have blemishes on their record. Fury losing suddenly makes fights in the future maybe more appealing. Does it spark the division up a bit because there isn't that one main man above the rest? You could argue possibly Usyk because he hasn't lost, but they've all got that blemish on their record then?
I don't know. I mean, it will certainly stoke a certain section of American fans who completely love Deontay Wilder. But I think there's a lot of kind of fatigue with people in the boxing sphere kind of seeing Wilder. They want rid of him and want done with Deontay. I think they kind of, I suppose in wrestling they call it X-Pac heat. Matty might know a bit about that, but people just want him off the screens now. So I don't know how much people have kind of really kind of taken away from Wilder, who kind of, we were saying this yesterday, originally kind of came in quite quiet. Everyone kind of took to him with some of the stuff he was saying. Now recently he's just kind of fallen off the deep end with some of the stuff that he's kind of bandwagoned on to the top of. But I suppose in terms of the heavyweight division, yeah, like if Wilder wins, we still want to see those fights, or at least I do, with Anthony Joshua. I want to see him in with Dylan White. I suppose it just brings that excitement. I suppose it gives a rejuvenation that he's got that win over Tyson Fury that no one else can claim that he would have, and indeed he got that in the first fight, but for Fury's miraculous powers of recovery there. But that's kind of it. If Deontay Wilder does get that, then yeah, I suppose in a sense it would give that reignition to the heavyweight division. But I don't know if I would want to see that, given how far off the deep end Deontay Wilder has fallen with kind of doubling down with all the stuff that he's come up with. Well, that's kind of been driven by a section of fans, and he's kind of bandwagoned on top of that in terms of the mainstream media. Now we've seen him do it on YouTube channels, but not in a mainstream sense. But he's done that this time around in the weigh-in, and that's kind of been a real worry for me, because you kind of maybe think that he didn't really think that, but he's been speaking about worries about who's with him and who's against him, wary of snakes in the camp, wary that Fury is going to do something. And you guys alluded to, something strange could happen. Well, I was saying this to Steve yesterday. I think when it doesn't go Deontay Wilder's way, if it doesn't go Deontay Wilder's way, because Deontay Wilder could win tonight, but if it doesn't and Fury's pummeling him, they might just call cheating. They might just cut the fight off and say he's cheating, and it could really start erupt in the ring and erupt in the stands, depending on how many of those Wilder fans are there potentially. But yeah, I think that could potentially be something that happens where Wilder calls it off and just says, no, he's beating me because he's cheating and doesn't want any more, and it kind of becomes this really kind of weird.
Yeah,
the curse of Drake is in play as well.
So you think then, Ames, that all of a sudden this thing that we've kind of laughed at a little bit could become a serious built-in excuse and a built-in player to what happens tomorrow night or tonight or whenever it is?
I really, really do, because I was really kind of looking for maybe, in the way that Deontay Wilder the first time around kind of put the headphones on and he didn't address anything. It was sort of, you wanted to see him kind of put those allegations out if he really believed them. But then in the way it was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe that's a bit of an out for him and he didn't want to just say anything. He could just kind of float through. But this time around, he's really kind of pushed it out there, put those allegations out there. And it's a shame for me to see that. And it's for me seeing a fighter who on the most important fight and night of his life isn't in the sense of maybe reality as to what's happening now. Yeah, sure. Any claims of any cheating you want to kind of take seriously, but these are completely unfounded. This isn't a Billy Collins, Lou Resto situation at all. This is completely unfounded as far as I'm concerned. And it's just a shame for someone to really kind of be just drowned by all that and not kind of, got a foothold of everything and what's happening tonight.
One person who is supporting Wilder or maybe backing Wilder is Craig Mastro. I think that is. It's Craig M anyway. He's dropped in 8.99. He says Wilder and 6. Trust me. Matty, just picking up on that point that I was making to Ames there. I just feel like, I mean, it's no odds to me, really, at the end of the day, who wins or who loses. But if Wilder wins, it kind of reignites him back as a major player. Not that he's not a major player, even if he loses. But if Fury wins again, it sort of pushes him further away from that AJ fight and makes it less credible than if AJ loses to Usyk. Maybe that's okay. Maybe the fight was never destined to happen. But I just think it pushes them all that bit closer together again if Wilder were to win. Do you know what I'm saying, Matty?
Well, definitely that makes sense because I mean, then everybody's flawed, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
except for Usyk, right? Except for his size, so he seems vulnerable. And I know that doesn't necessarily work. I mean, we saw the results, but the way that I would look at this is in the United States, it's important for Wilder to win because it's just historic fact. In the United States, heavyweight boxing and boxing in general is successful when we have an American big black heavyweight champion. That's just how it is. And every era has been able to follow around with that in one way or another. You know, the Ali era ended just before, the Mike Tyson era really started. There was a very small gap in there, when you think about it, and we were still kicking ass with 84. So we never lost it around then. The heavyweights, carried it over into the 90s as well with Holyfield and Bo. Foreman coming back more. So we need Deontay Wilder. Boxing died a lot in the United States because we had no one really, except for a couple of fluke side champions here and there for almost like 20 years. It was ridiculous. Well, about 15. So it's going to be a big deal. And people, I know the points about like thinking about, what Wilder, the dumb things he said, the excuses that he can't make. And I'm going to make an odd analogy for you guys. For my time in third-party politics and being involved in a periphery sport, I'll tell you they're very similar in the sense that the inside baseball of the sport, the inside baseball of the party isn't known by the outside world. It has shit to do with shit. It doesn't have an impact on casual fans, casual voters. It's so whatever dumb shit Wilder's really said, it's going to have no impact on nothing at the end of the day.
There we go. Matty's laid it out. Right, we're not going to be on here forever. We'll go around the hour mark and then we'll slide out of here. I'll give everybody a chance to have their say. Anything that interests them on the undercard, which is about to start soon if it hasn't started already. Anything on the undercard that's interesting you, Rob? Rob, anything on the undercard that's interesting you?
Is Maya Jama doing the... No.
No,
if
no,
not,
so.
then no. No.
Christina Poncho, no? Bit of Abdo?
I like
Paula
Thomas
Abdul?
Crawford, man. Good for
Yeah,
Paul
Crawford,
Abdul. Now we're talking.
Crawford likes a wee bit of Abdo, by the way. There must have been Wilder was well on the case, by the way. Must admit, he's
Paula Abdul. I tell you one thing.
think...
I'd be next to that like fucking MC Scat Cat, Steve. There's a fucking reference for you.
I think Wilder's a wee bit of Poirot about him. I think possibly.
I wouldn't be surprised. What about you, Andy? The intriguing ones for me. Kovnacki,
Yeah.
I expect him to beat Hellenius in the rematch. He's looking in good shape, Kovnacki. Just saying. I think he might win on over 12 rounds. And a Jagba against Sanchez, an interesting one. A Jagba's a puncher, but pretty one-dimensional. Yep. Sanchez isn't really much of a puncher, I suppose, in comparatively, but he can move a little bit, slip and slide. You'd imagine the longer the fight goes on, maybe favour Sanchez more.
Possibly, mate. Just to let the listeners know, as the undercard started, G-Rock Williams against Vladimir Hernandez is just the first round ended. Hernandez is cut, so that's fights at middleweight. Berlanga, I'm expecting to win by knockout. It's a step up for him at least anyway. This guy who's been, I think he went 11 or 12 with Bilge's runners basically. Jagba, stiff as fuck, but I'm expecting him to win by knockout. I don't know what age Sanchez is. Kovnacki. Yep, you're right. He's dropped a lot. I think he's dropped a wee bit of weight, about 7 or 8 pounds, whereas Hellenius is maybe upped about 8 or 9, possibly. So I don't know how.
Fuck, what is there to do in Finland? He was probably stuck there for a long fucking time because of COVID, just sitting around eating fucking fatty moose.
I think Hellenius took his opportunity in the first fight. I think Kovnacki will be a bit more reserved and a bit cleverer this time, Andy.
Well, you think so, mate? Because he's dropped the weight as well. I mean,
Yeah.
he got dinged up properly in that first fight. I watched it back there about 10
he
days
did,
ago.
yeah.
He got properly dinged up. So
And then he went back in to fight with Hellenius. I think that's the mistake he'll maybe learn from this time. And if he
Possibly.
doesn't, he'll get knocked out again.
Hellenius was sitting on that one of the WBA belts, probably the gold one, maybe waiting on a decision. And this is what they've come back up with, a rematch. He'll get handsomely paid. But I think he could do it. But Konaki is at the same time, I'm surprised at how much weight he's lost at the same time. He looks thinner. Isn't he as rubbery, shall we say, for the first fight? And Hellenius isn't much changed, to be honest with you, although he's got about 7 or 8 pounds on top of him. Got 24 hours on top of it. I don't know. I think that's 50-50. I'll maybe say Kownacki, maybe next it late, possibly. Maybe a late stoppage. But I'm really looking forward to it because you've got so many heavyweight fights on it. You just know you're guaranteed a fucking knockout somewhere along the line. Anderson and that as well. I don't think he's fought yet. As I say, Williams is I'm sure that fight's still going on. I think it's round 2. According to punch stats, at least Williams has got 27 landed to Hernandez's 17. So
it's a good weekend of boxing altogether, Andy.
Yeah,
to be honest, we love a moan, but I tell you what, it's a good weekend of boxing.
Well, listen, mate. To be honest, I think we're doing pretty well this week at least. I think Matty's request to have a pre-fight pod rather than a post-fight pod is doing pretty well because we get to discuss these fights. These weekends have been pretty sparse, shall we say, or pretty quiet. But this week's been pretty good. I've not seen any of the BT card. Obviously, I need the Aussie to kind of fill us in with that one. I will catch up with some of maybe the Cunningham fight. But it's been pretty solid actually. I'm just watching this fight just now between Williams and Hernandez. It's close quarter battles.
Save your analysis, Andy. This won't age well in a few hours. It'll be completely obsolete. But not to worry. Listen, we're going to have everyone's summation very shortly and predictions before we get out of here. Ames, first of all, anything on the undercard that interests you? If not, any interest from the BT card or any thoughts from the Smith-Fowler fight tonight?
No, I think you've kind of pretty much covered everything from the card there on the undercard. Hellenius Kownacki, excuse me. Konaki's dropped the weight. I haven't seen it myself in terms of seeing him on the scales, but he's still got to overcome the size advantage that Hellenius brings to the table, and that was a real problem for him the first fight round. I think it still will. I think we'll play the factor again in the second fight. I think Hellenius will come through that one. Jagba Sanchez, I can't really call. I'll probably pick a Jagba. Interesting to see that the fight with Berlanga and Caceres. Caceres gave Billy Joe Saunders hell, didn't he, for those 10 rounds, and eventually Billy Joe Saunders got the stoppage. See if Edgar Berlanga can go better and get back to knockout ways. I didn't see the BT Sport card. I tried flicking back and forth, but couldn't get anything steady, so I missed out on that one. I watched all the Smith-Fowler fight card, and the Cheeseman-Williamson fight was just an absolutely enthralling watch. Lots of momentum swings in that fight. A fight that you can watch back again very easily. It was a little bit sad in a way because I think Ted's kind of bought a lot of goodwill from the fans for being in like really good fights and always bringing the action from his part of the view in those fights. So to watch him kind of go out like that as well, when a couple of rounds earlier it seemed like he was the one who was going to get grasp the victory, was a little bit sad in that sort of sense. But at the same time as well, Troy, watching him kind of, for me, I thought Troy would only really bring the power aspect, kind of seeing him fumble through his last couple of fights with Kieran Smith, who he kind of looked really one-dimensional in that fight, looking for the knockout, but actually he boxed well, I think, and found that second wind and snatched the title away from Ted Cheeseman. And I think, I put out on Twitter, it's a mandatory fight, sure, but we need to see more of these Matchroom versus Queensbury fights because it was a fantastic fight, a great advert for that. And a penny for the thoughts of Troy Williamson made mention of that Hamza Shiraz was maybe in the line for fighting Ted Cheeseman. It should have been him, and Ted's kind of stepped to the plate. Well, penny for the thoughts of them. Yeah, maybe Shiraz a little less experience, but it could have been for the taking there for Shiraz to kind of capture the British title. Obviously, he's doing his own thing there. But yeah, Smith-Fowler was a really good watch as well. It kind of happened how we sort of said it, maybe just a little bit earlier with Fowler getting him down the straight. But I just thought I'd like to kind of put out the question of what really was the game plan from the Shane McGuigan corner, because they must have known that Smith was going to come through and just set the pace, set the tone. And they only really controlled that for, I'd say, about 2-3 rounds. And then Smith kind of came on, and they didn't really have anything to kind of battle against that apart from what Fowler was already doing. So, yeah, I know they've talked about levels and Fowler wasn't ready, but still I would have thought you might have had more facets to kind of adapt to that. Do you want me to kind of go on with Fury Wilder, or should I hold on for that for the moment?
No, hold on, Ames. Hold those thoughts. Des has jumped in.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, my bad. I just like to make mention. I know
Yes.
people like to harp on Shannon Courtney, but just put that aside for a moment. Jamie Mitchell won the title this weekend, and I don't know too much of the facts of the story, but she's come through. It sounds like a very dark upbringing, and for her to capture the world title. Which must be a crowning moment for her to. Sorry, go on.
By her mother. She got abandoned by her mother at 10 months old, put in care, abused in care.
Yeah.
And she's come out and abused Shannon Courtney, so she's a legend in my opinion.
36 years old too. I mean, you got to hand it to her.
Yeah, she's
exactly. So
Fair
she's
play.
come over here. She's won the title. So
this is what boxing is all about. This is what boxing is all about.
That's exactly it, Andy. It's one of those moments where male boxing, female boxing aside, just boxing in general, that's one of those moments where fans can kind of really again forget about Shannon Courtney for a moment, just her story, Jamie Mitchell. It's a nice moment for boxing fans who can obviously hopefully read into her story as well.
Well said, Ames. I was just going to say there, Des said Ted and Troy was outstanding. Ted needs watching now. Completely agree. I'd hate to see the sparring that goes on in the gym. Just before we go on to our final picks, Ozzy, anything from the American undercard that interests you?
Just the two heavyweight fights more than anything. I think they'll be entertaining while they last. I don't see either going the distance. Struggling to pick winners in both, actually. If I had to gun to my head, I'd probably go with Kaunaki and Jagber. But if Hellenius comes through and wins again, would I be shocked? Perhaps a little. And I think that would say a lot more about Kaunaki and where does that really leave him. And Sanchez, who knows? Will he bring out? God knows how old he really is, because he's not fucking 29, that's for sure. So will old age pay off? Who knows? But they're the two fights on the undercard for sure. And overall, what a good night it's been. What a good night, and it's what I'm not saying we deserve more, because I hate that phrase, but it's what we should be seeing a lot more of, and that's a lot more competitive fights, again, regardless of the level. The board can do a lot for this. They made Cheeseman against Williamson, so there's no reason why they can't make more fights like that. I mean, what a fight that was, by the way. What a fight that was. Brilliant. I thought Cheeseman would win just purely on experience and having a bit too much for Williamson, who I don't think has displayed, that sort of performance in his previous fights, but he certainly rose to the challenge and he was excellent. And that stoppage, that was a brutal KO. That wasn't just fatigue.
That was savage, mate. That was a right uppercut, and then the left hook he was out. The second that left hook landed, he was absolutely sleeping. And it's bad when the leg curls under when they go down. He was gone. And Cheeseman has got a good chin as well. Like we say that his only form of defense is using his head and his body, but he has got a good chin. And he was obliterated, absolutely gone. So certainly want to see more of that. I've not seen a lot of the beating. To be honest, I've only seen the half of the Cunningham Foster fight. Looking at the reaction online, it seems that the decision was dubious. But again, credit to Jason Cunningham. I'll rewatch that tomorrow, so I can actually have give a fair account on it. But looking forward to tonight. Can't wait for it. And what a good weekend of boxing it's been. Can I say, Steve, as well, as we say that after his last fight, I believe to see Ted Cheeseman retire now. I think someone needs to have a word with him, just be honest. It's been a hard career. 27, 26. I don't know what age he is. He's definitely his late 20s. Sorry,
He's 27, I think, isn't he?
20, he can't have fights like that anymore, mate. He has been through the well one too often. And we can all laugh and say we want to see a clean knockout and that, but that guy is going to have in 20 years' time severe cognitive problems, without doubt. And I would like to see someone at least try and put, at this point going forward, some sort of kind of plan at least for him for his retirement, because I guarantee, I would hate to guarantee it, but I could pretty much guarantee within the next 20 to 30 years, maybe even earlier, he's going to have severe problems with his career. Severe problems.
I think the problem with him is he has two styles, but he adopts one way too much. Like he can mix it up. He's shown good box ability in the past, but he doesn't mix it up during the fight. So there's times where he should be taking a back step and he just fucking goes to war, doesn't he? Like, so, yeah.
He showed
I
good
agree with
boxing
Ames,
ability,
yeah.
Rob, in the first couple of rounds. He was using the jab nicely, picking gaps. I thought he was looking okay in the first couple.
Yeah, that's what I'm
He
saying.
showed it against Fitzgerald as well.
Yeah, exactly. But there's just times where I feel like I don't know, but yeah, I agree with Ames. It was kind of sad seeing it, but Williamson deserved it for the fucking finish, man. Amazing.
I don't think he needs. I don't think he needs to retire personally. I'd like to see him go on. I just think he needs like a 2 or 3, like 8 or 10 rounders, but against lesser opposition. I think his last 6 or 7 fights have been 12 rounders against good level opposition.
Time's up.
No, I disagree. I mean, we see people get banged out all the time, and I know he's got a style from where. Like the thing is, though, you would have said that about Sam Eggington when he got bashed up off Liam Smith. But Sam Eggington's come back and won 2 or 3 fights on the spin. And he's shown that it's about the levels of opposition. I mean, I've always said, though, to be fair, a clean KO like that is better than taking a sustained beating for 12 rounds. Remember, like Marcus Morrison did against Jason Wellborn, and Gallagher just made him carry on, and he took a sustained beating. I understand they traded shots, but it wasn't, like a complete one-sided beatdown. So I just think he needs, take a step back. He's beltless now, but there's nothing wrong with that. He's always got a style that'll be interesting. He takes a long break. He certainly won't be boxing for the remainder of this year. Comes back, couple of 8-rounders, see how it goes, and then maybe step up again. But I'm not saying match him more wisely, because I mean Williamson, to be fair, has not been known for that sort of that KO power and in that sort of fights. But that saying, I don't think he needs to retire yet. Personally, I completely respect your opinion, Andy, if you think he needs to do that, and I don't think you'll be on your own in thinking he does need to retire. That's for sure. But I think the one thing we do agree on is that certainly he needs to be looked after, because
value for money, at least. That's
absolutely.
Absolutely agree on. But I think his time, mate, at this point, I mean, British, European level, he's been absolute value. Remember, Steve, he used to have that. What's his name again? The poster used to put the Ted Cheeseman.
Oh, it was the late Darryl Jelly, who passed away last year.
He used to every week, mate. He used to put like a Ted Cheeseman chat here, and I used to balk at it. I used to, but after the night, it's like I've watched him the last 3-4 fights, and that he has been absolute value for money. But for what I've been reading, as I say, I don't know about Ben, but I've just finished Dixon's book and stuff. I don't know about his sparring in that as well. That is a big thing. What happens in the fight happens during the fight, but what happens in sparring is a different big issue. If Ted Cheeseman sparred like he fights, he is in big problems. By the way,
I'll find out.
I was kind of questioning why he even took the fight with Williamson in the first place. Not in the sense that Williamson is this massive threat, with all due respect to him, but in the sense that he didn't really. He captured the British title, but defending the British title wasn't really something that he really needed to do. And as well, you can kind of look at, fine, Liam Smith might have knocked him out as well, but that as the Fowler getting that fight as an opportunity that maybe he should have had. Obviously, Joe McNally made the comment about kind of Fowler stepping in front of the queue, but he would be stepping in front. He was stepping in front of Ted Cheeseman there, who was obviously well in front of Fowler. I know it's a Liverpool fight and a Liverpool thing, but still, in terms of opportunities and who's deserving it, Ted's probably one of those who, with coming off the fights with Metcalf and Eggington, deserves it more.
I think Ames, that would have had he of. Does he own the British outright? I think that's the main thing. I think had he have won tonight, that would have meant he owns the British outright. And quite a few fighters win the British title, but very few own it outright. And I think tonight, because you don't have to do 3 consecutive defences, do you? It's 3 defences or 3 wins of the British title. And he obviously beat Azinia Byfield. He drew with Kieran Conway, which I can't remember if that counts as a defence or not. I'm not 100% sure.
It would do, surely, wouldn't it? If you draw,
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It does. Yeah. It should do. Yeah. And then tonight would have been his 3rd against. Well, no, he then beat JJ Metcalf, so he may own it outright. I'm not 100% sure, but
that's my point. Ozzy, like, other than that, what did the win? If Ted got the win tonight, what did the win do for him? Other than that.
Well, I guess it's a defence of his British title, isn't it? And we can say the same about what did the win for Liam. What did the win over Liam Taylor do for David Avanesian? But it keeps him active. There was clearly no interest in putting Cheeseman in against Liam Smith, because as soon as they got a sniff of the Fowler fight, all Liverpool fight, both, at 154. It's a rarity that that's going to happen. We saw Cheeseman step up to European level and got soundly beaten off Garcia, who I still think is the European champion as well. So it does leave him in a bit of a precarious situation of, who they match him with. Sam Eggington, he's up at 160 now, I think. So there's no way that fight could happen. You're trying to think of, and bear in mind, there's some big hits in 154s as well. We saw him beat JJ Metcalf, who was on the undercard. He's drawn with Kieran Conway. I mean, you pick me an opponent who you could have put Ted Cheeseman in with tonight. I'm not 100% sure. And I'll never begrudge, a British champion. I'd have been really disappointed in Cheeseman going, I'm vacating it because I don't want to fight Troy Williamson. I'm better than that. He chucks the belt away. Where does that leave him? He's nothing. Of course, he could fight for one of these crappy WBA, WBC, IBF bauble belts, but against who?
An opponent like war with his shadow, though, was he, man? He can't help it, can he?
Yeah, of course, yeah, but neither can Eggington. And look, there's always a place for people like that. But I'm not going to begrudge it. And like we said, Williamson is not known for these big hitting, hard, grueling fights. The styles gelled and it worked out really well. Like I said, I'm never going to begrudge, like someone like Cheeseman or whoever looking to defend the title, because what he doesn't want to do, he doesn't want to be seen as giving it away. And without looking at and going through the rankings, I haven't got a clue who there's nobody who springs to mind who I'd put him in with and say that's a good progression fight, because he's nowhere near world level. He could win a European title against the right opponent, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know where it leaves him now. Like I said, I think he needs a long break. I'll find out. I'll be able to find out what his plans are, what he's going to do. I kind of rate Tony Sims as a trainer, but he seems to have not really changed anything with Cheeseman. Would a move away from him do it? Or is it one of them of he's stuck in a style and that is Cheeseman's style, and regardless of what you try and train him, that's that. But he's won the one fight where he had more, like he was basically absolutely fine in, was the Fitzgerald one. But what did he do? He boxed on the back foot that night, and he probably feels that he boxed like that. He didn't get the decision, and he feels he can't go into fights like that, which is a shame, really. But because he's shown he can box, but at the same time, is he confident in doing that because he didn't get the result? But again, I'll never begrudge him. I'd love to see a rematch, and he wouldn't shot me in Cheeseman. He'd call him for that. That's saying I'm not sure, but don't be shocked if you see a Cheeseman Fowler fight down the line potentially. As he did with Conway and Metcalf tonight, 2 lads coming off a loss. If they both stay at 154, in Hearn's eyes, it makes perfect sense to put them together. And that's a great fight as well, by the way, because after we saw Fowler's vulnerabilities tonight, along with Cheeseman, who takes countless amount of shots, again, it's probably another 50-50.
I think, like you're saying, I do believe Ted Cheeseman does need that long break. And I think he said it himself after the Eggington fight. if he didn't win against Egginson, he was going to retire. So I think the question will probably be asked after this fight as to whether he does retire. I think he's mentioned that he's got businesses outside of it, like a construction business, I think, which does quite well for him. So maybe he doesn't really need it as much as he used to as well. But yeah, I do agree that it does need to be thought about carefully. But I think there's still legs in Ted. Just the long break is needed as well.
I agree.
Des says Ted was half punchy coming out of the amateurs. He needs an exit strategy. Matty, we're working on an exit strategy to get out of here tonight. First of all, what about the undercard for
He could
you?
try modelling.
All right, don't worry about the undercard for me. That can be part of the exit strategy.
Tell you what, just quickly, J-Rock, I'm just watching a bit of it here. It looks like he's getting touched up a little bit, but you talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, it is interesting. This unheralded Vladimir Hernandez is really giving him a good night's work, and he's got to go 10. So could be interesting. You might have not taken this seriously. Sometimes these guys that just want it more, they come out of nowhere and beat people that would, beat them 19 times out of 20.
J-Rock can't avoid a war, Matty. He always gets dragged in, I think.
I don't think he knows how to snap his jab. And I'll tell you what, I'll make the segue, Steve. If Wilder puts some snap into his jab, it's going to make all the difference in the world tonight. And he'll be able to dictate a little bit more of the distance that the fight is fought at this evening. I just got this hunch that Deontay's going to knock him out, and I'm probably wrong. I swear to God, I'm probably wrong. But I'm going Deontay Wilder, KO5. Deontay KO5.
Deontay Wilder KO5 for Matty. He's going for it big time. I'm going to give my prediction as well shortly. Before we do, Rob, I'll ask you for yours, but I am going to mention this from Des because he sent this in to me and I've neglected to mention it so far, Rob. He said, I say about Malik Scott the same as I said Ben Davidson is in this same position. He's not experienced enough or secure enough in his role to impose an aggressive, assertive style. Malik will set Wilder up not to lose rather than going out to win. Fury will impose his size, style and strength, and I see Wilder coming undone. His boxing IQ is low and he doesn't have the best fundamentals. He'll find himself under pressure and get caught between two stalls. Fury wins by KO, Rob. Des says, I fancy him inside 6 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of that. I think Malik Scott, the key for him is keeping Wilder in the fight as long as he can, in that he's not out of it. So if he's losing the rounds, they're still planning on setting up the equalizer. Sneaky feelings for Wilder. The curse of Drake is at play here again. Drake sent Tyson Fury a video message. Drake seems to turn up in everybody's corner when they get beaten. Like, could be Conor McGregor versus Khabib, Anthony Joshua versus Ruiz. There's a long list of other sports stars who he's put a curse on. So can the Gypsy curse supersede the curse of Drake? I don't know. The fight's going to go 2 ways. Either Wilder gets the knockout out of somewhere, and then he is the superstar again in the sport where he says, they did drug my water. He did put egg weights in his gloves, and I'm back, baby. Bomb squad. Or Fury wins it. I think Fury's the best fighter, so I'm going to give him the edge. In rematches, the better fighter normally wins. So Fury for me. And I'm going to say split decision because the judges are always greased.
Split decision there. What about you, Ames? Nothing is off the table for me, as I said last night on our BNTV stream. Nothing is off the table. A lot of people think that Wilder can't win a decision. I disagree. I think that anything could happen here. Early, late, decision, points, knockouts, headbutts, people coming into the ring. Nothing, Ames, is off the table for me. More importantly, people want to know who you are going for. Give us a method of victory and the winner.
It's interesting you mentioned about Wilder points. A lot of people have kind of pointed towards Fury donning all the WBC merch and whether that will kind of sway the judges in terms of giving him a decision because Wilder's come out with none of that. Obviously, he's not the champion, but I suppose you can still maybe look to play those sort of mind games. But look, for me, the fight from a Fury perspective, when this trilogy initially started, was a tightrope walk because of the right hand that Deontay Wilder possesses, but Fury has since figured him out. So that tightrope that he was walking is now a wide platform for Fury to navigate himself across to win by any means. Wilder still has that right hand, and we've seen for our own eyes it land in the 7th, I believe it was, and the 12th most notably and infamously in the first fight, and Fury got up. We've seen it land in the second fight, and I think people forget that after the fight, which ended so conclusively, Fury went over to Wilder and told him, "Look, you rocked me with a big right hand, and I don't know how I stood up or worse to those effect." And Wilder still has that, and I believe that Wilder will land his right hand. I think everyone knows he will at some point. It's just the question is whether Fury can still take it. But I believe that Wilder will land that right hand, and I think he will drop Tyson Fury, who will get up on the canvas to eventually stop his opponent. Just the questions for me, I believe Deontay Wilder will have made the improvements. I think to an extent they're trying to lead Tyson up the garden path with the whole clips and all that sort of stuff. But look, you can make those improvements behind the scenes, but in terms of in the ring, what happens when Fury is a combination puncher, unleashes a combination? And we've seen Deontay Wilder, who's always kind of shelled up behind his guard and doesn't throw anything back. Is he going to start countering and coming back with something and throwing with him potentially? What happens when Fury neutralizes the right hand by occupying it with his jab? What's the left hook has shown proven to kind of be not as strong as the right hand. So it's just really the right hand that Fury has to navigate from. And I think, look, the tricks will be there for Fury to figure out. He might fall for one. It might make him pay. I don't think it will. I think Tyson Fury eventually stops Deontay Wilder. I think it actually happens a little bit later this time, maybe a couple of rounds later than the first and the second time round. Sorry, but no, I don't see it going to points. Fury wins by stoppage.
I'm just getting me all pumped up now with this analysis, Aussie. I'm just letting the guys know I'm going to get this up on Patreon and possibly SoundCloud as well. It'll be obsolete in the morning by the time you listen to this. Who will care? But Aussie, you throw in your prediction. Everyone wants to know who you're going for and by what method of victory.
I said it last week, and I've said it since the third fight was made, and I'll stick to the prediction of tonight, and that's Tyson Fury by stoppage. Echo basically everything what I said before. Deontay Wilder has got to do everything different. Tyson Fury does not. Tyson Fury has shown two different ways to beat Deontay Wilder, and if it wasn't for poor judging, would have successfully executed both methods. Wilder is yet to show a way to beat Fury. Yes, he landed that big right hand, but Fury did something that barely anybody else has done, and that is not just get up after that big right hand, but he won the round. He won the 12th round and actually finished on the front foot. Wilder is doing everything differently. New trainer, career high in weight. He's put more muscle on. He's trying to do different things. Whereas Fury, again, you don't need to teach him anything. He's just, honing the skills he's got, sharpening the tools, and just getting better and better. And I think we've seen a confidence in Fury that we've not. He always seems confident because that's his persona, but he just seems naturally more confident because I think he knows that regardless of what Deontay Wilder does, he's just got the wood on him. And as I say that, he might say he's going to come out, and knock him out and beat him quicker. But at the same time, how many times we've seen Fury, say one thing and he does the other? And what's Deontay Wilder going to do if Fury boxes on the back foot again and he can't get anywhere near him? He's carrying that additional weight, bigger muscles, and they're starved of oxygen. He's only going to fatigue, and that's going to play into Fury's hands. He'll be able to utilize that size, make the extra weight count, and I think he'll get him out of there in round 6 to 8.
Dave Trick says Fury late stoppage, no over-analysing, just a feeling. Just before being Andy, and I'll go for my prediction. I'm sure everyone's going to go bet against the opposite. But I have been going for Wilder KO for so long. I'm going to bottle it the last minute. I just fancy Fury. I'm going to go for 11th round stoppage on the basis of a good boxer beating a good puncher, but I would not be surprised, as I said before, of any outcome. But I think, be a bit foolish to pick against Fury, but I wouldn't be surprised if Wilder knocked him out. So I'm not sitting on the fence. Fury for me, Andy. Who are you going for?
Yeah, just like the boys know, actually, J. Rock Williams just got wobbled there at the end of that. I think it was the 8th or 9th round there.
It fucking worked.
Great little scrap this is,
Did you see it? Holy shit, man. He got really wobbled at the end of that fucking last round. But yeah, mate, so woo! So I'll just sign off by saying this, mate, about my prediction of the fight. No excuses, but costume was too heavy, palms were sweaty, legs were weak, mama's spaghetti, Fury's gloves were loaded, I had weak legs, my water was spiked, Fury's gloves had no padding, had bicep surgery. I was a zombie, disloyal trainer, complications in the camp. Had an autopsy, had a broken arm. Fight stopped too early. Under
A
the
dent in his head.
Ref stopped. Ref did a shit job. Snakes in the grass. Dent in the head.
Egg weights.
Egg weights in the glove. Fury was covered in oil. Ricky Hatton pulled the gloves down. I was injured by my bicep. I had a broken hand. Fury's fist in my glove. Fury took Page. Fury in the gypsy magic voodoo. I had the flu. I was food poisoned. I got my fucking head knocked in. I'm going to get knocked out. Tyson Fury by knockout. That's how it's going to go.
You should write children's books and record the audio version of them, Andy.
Like fucking Grimm's fairy tales, man.
I was like, what's that thing?
The children, the dead man, fucking hell.
What's it called again? The Alton Towers. What's the fucking thing called again? Oh,
What is it?
what's his name? I mentioned you. I took my daughter to go and see it a couple of years ago. What's the name of it? What's the X? What's his name? I fucking forget. Yeah, move on.
Yeah. With your rhymes, man, you're bringing me back. You know.
Yeah.
I'm Peter McNeely from Medfield, Mass, and on Saturday night I'm gonna kick Tyson's ass.
Yes.
I don't think you'll be able to string that sentence together somehow, the poor fella these days. But yeah,
He's CT central, that one. Like.
He's seen better days, it's fair to say. Thank you, everybody who's joined us in the chat, especially everyone who's thrown in super chats tonight. Let's give a shout out to each and every one of them. Yeah, some good lads knocking about, like Dan Potter, John O'Donovan, Francis King, Dan Desmond, the Doctor FMG, Johnny Horsecock Nelson, Oliver Isaacs, Chino35, and Craig M. Thank you to all for dropping in super chats. Thank you to Rapping Rob Kelly, Andy Patterson, Take Ames, Ozzy Smith, Matty DJ Leonardo, and me, Steve Wellings. We'll be back again tonight, tomorrow night, next week. Who knows? Episode 445, 8 p.m. UK. Matty will be in the red hot seat. We've managed to do an hour and a half for you boys. We love you all. We'll see you again later on. Bye.
Woo!